It's 11 at night. You are sitting in the cockpit of your Huey helicopter. You're flying 50 feet above the jungle canopy at 120 miles per hour in complete darkness. Your co-pilot is reading instruments. Your crew chief and door gunner are scanning for threats you can't see. And you're heading toward grid coordinates where an LRRP team is surrounded and needs immediate extraction. They can't wait until morning. If they're still alive by morning, it'll be a miracle. So you're flying, at night, at low altitude, through hostile territory, hoping you don't hit a tree, hoping you don't get shot down, hoping you can find the team in the darkness and get them out before the enemy overruns their position. This is what night flying was like in Vietnam. And this is why night missions had some of the highest casualty rates in the war. This is about one of the most dangerous jobs in Vietnam, flying helicopters at night, low and fast through terrain you could barely see, into landing zones that were often hot, to extract soldiers or deliver critical supplies when waiting until daylight meant people died. The pilots who did this were either incredibly brave or absolutely crazy, probably both. And understanding what they went through, what they risked every single night, is essential to understanding the air war in Vietnam. Let me start with the basics of night flying. In daylight, you can see. You have visual references, the horizon, the ground, obstacles. You can judge distance and altitude by looking. At night, especially in Vietnam, you have almost nothing. No city lights, no street lights, no ambient illumination. Just darkness. Complete, absolute darkness. The kind of darkness that makes you question whether your eyes are even open. The only tools you have are your instruments, and if you're lucky, night vision equipment. The instruments tell you altitude, speed, heading, engine performance. But instruments can fail, can give false readings, can be misread under stress. You're trusting your life and the lives of your crew to gauges that might be wrong. That's terrifying. The early night vision was primitive compared to modern equipment. Heavy, uncomfortable, limited field of view. They turned everything into shades of green, washed out contrast, made depth perception difficult. You could see, but not well, not clearly. Trees looked like dark masses. The ground was a blur of shadows. Distinguishing a clearing from a river from solid jungle was guesswork as much as skill. Many night missions were flown without night vision equipment, just instruments and instinct. You'd fly by the green glow of your instrument panel, trust your co-pilot to watch for obstacles, hope your crew chief and door gunner could see enough to warn you about threats. This wasn't flying. This was controlled falling through darkness and hoping you didn't hit anything. The altitude was critical. You flew low to avoid radar detection, to stay under the enemy's anti-aircraft fire, to maintain terrain masking, using hills and valleys to hide your helicopter. But flying low at night was suicide if you made a mistake. 50 feet above the jungle meant you had about half a second to react if something went wrong. Hit a tree and you're dead. Lose engine power and you're dead. Get disoriented and you're dead. The margin for error was zero. Your mission tonight is an LRRP extraction. A Long Range Reconnaissance Patrol team radioed that they're compromised. Enemy forces are closing in. They need immediate extraction. The mission coordinator looked at the weather, looked at the situation, looked at the available pilots, and chose you. Because you're one of the few pilots willing to fly this mission, one of the few crazy enough to try. You pre-flight the helicopter in darkness, using a red lens flashlight that won't destroy your night vision, checking rotors by feel as much as sight, checking fuel, checking systems. Everything has to be perfect because you can't fix problems in the air, not at night, not at low altitude, not when you're being shot at. Your crew climbs aboard. Your co-pilot, Warrant Officer Martinez, has flown with you for 6 months. You trust him completely. Your crew chief was Sergeant Willis. He knows this helicopter better than anyone, can diagnose problems by sound. Your door gunner is Specialist Chen, young but sharp, quick reactions. You need every bit of their skill tonight. You brief the mission. The LRRP team is 15 miles northwest, in dense jungle, near a river bend. They've marked their position with infrared strobes that only show up on night vision equipment. Your job is to find them in the darkness, land in whatever clearing they've found, load 6 men, and get out before the enemy kills all of you. Simple, except nothing about night flying is simple. You start the engine, the turbine whines, the rotors begin turning. You go through your checks, everything shows green. You're ready. You take a breath, say a quick prayer, and lift off into the darkness. The transition from ground to air at night is disorienting. You lose your horizon reference, lose your sense of up and down, have to trust your instruments completely. Your inner ear is telling you one thing, your instruments are telling you another. You believe the instruments. You have to, because your inner ear lies. Spatial disorientation kills pilots. You've seen it happen. Good pilots who trusted their instincts instead of their instruments and flew straight into the ground. You climb to 500 feet, get some altitude for the transit. Martinez is navigating, checking the map, calculating heading and distance. Heading 320, 12 miles to target area. You turn to that heading, push the airspeed to 120 knots. You're flying fast because speed means less time exposed to ground fire. But speed also means less time to react to obstacles. The jungle is a black void below you. No definition, no details, just darkness. Occasionally you see a river reflecting starlight, see a clearing that shows as a slightly less dark patch, but mostly it's just black. You're flying over this at 120 miles per hour in a helicopter that will kill you if you make one mistake. Chen's voice comes over the intercom. Movement on the ground, 3 o'clock. You glance right, see nothing. Your night vision isn't as good as his. Probably just animals, Chen adds. Probably, but maybe not. Maybe it's enemy soldiers. Maybe they're setting up anti-aircraft guns. Maybe they're waiting for you to fly overhead. You push the thought away. Focus on flying. Willis checks the equipment in back, making sure everything is secured, making sure the rescue hoist is ready in case the LRRP team can't reach a proper landing zone, making sure his weapon is loaded and accessible. He's done this before, knows what's coming, knows it's going to be chaos. Martinez calls out, 5 miles to target, start descending. You reduce power, begin descending, going back down into the darkness, down where the trees are, where the enemy is, where you're most vulnerable. Your heart rate increases, your hands tighten on the controls, your breathing gets shallow. You force yourself to relax. Tension makes you slower, makes you react worse. You need to be loose, ready. 2 miles. I've got the infrared strobe. Martinez is looking through night vision, seeing something you can't see yet. Bearing 335, distance about 1.8 miles. You adjust heading slightly, slow your airspeed, drop lower. You're at 200 feet now. The jungle is close, too close, but you need to be low for the approach. 1 mile, descending to 100 feet. You're in the trees now. Well, above the trees, but barely. You can see the canopy in your night vision, individual trees becoming visible. You're looking for the clearing, for the strobe, for any indication of where the LRRP team is. And then you see it. A small opening in the jungle, maybe 40 feet across. The infrared strobe is flashing. You can see it now. That's where you need to land, in that tiny opening, in complete darkness, with enemy forces nearby, and the LRRP team depending on you. I've got the LZ, you tell Martinez, coming in from the east. You circle once, looking for obstacles, looking for threats. The clearing is small, really small. You're not sure the helicopter will fit, but you don't have a choice. This is the only option. You make your approach, coming in slow, reducing power carefully. You're at 50 feet, 40 feet, 30 feet. You can see the ground now in your night vision, can see the LRRP team waving from the edge of the clearing, can see their faces. They look desperate, terrified. 20 feet. The rotor wash is kicking up dust and debris, blinding your night vision. You're flying on instruments now, watching altitude, watching descent rate, feeling the controls. 10 feet, 5 feet. You flare, cushion the descent. The skids touch. You're on the ground. We're down. Load them. Willis and Chan are out of the helicopter instantly, moving to help the LRRP team. You're on the controls, keeping the helicopter stable, keeping it ready for immediate takeoff. Martinez is watching the instruments, watching for engine problems, for any indications something's wrong. You hear gunfire, enemy fire, coming from the tree line, bullets hitting the jungle around the clearing. The LRRP team is returning fire while moving to the helicopter. Willis is firing his M60, suppressing the enemy, buying time. Chen is doing the same. The noise is incredible, even through your helmet. The LRRP soldiers are climbing aboard. 1, 2, 3. They're wounded, exhausted, moving slowly. Come on, come on! Willis is yelling at them, pulling them into the helicopter. 4, 5. Where's the 6th? One more, Willis shouts. Last man's hit bad. Bringing him now. You see 2 LRRP soldiers carrying a 3rd, dragging him toward the helicopter. Enemy fire is intensifying. Bullets hitting the helicopter now. You hear the impacts, feel them. Martinez calls out, taking fire, multiple hits, but nothing critical yet. Engines still running, controls still respond. You're still flyable. The wounded soldier is loaded. That's everyone. Go, go, go. Willis is barely inside when you pull power, maximum power. The helicopter shudders, strains. You've got too much weight. 6 LRRP soldiers plus your crew, plus all their equipment, plus ammunition. You're over max gross weight. The helicopter is sluggish, doesn't want to lift. You pull more power, overstressing the engine, redlining it. The helicopter lifts, barely. You're climbing, slowly. 10 feet, 15 feet, 20 feet, still taking fire. You're clear in the trees. 25 feet, 30 feet. The enemy fire decreases as you climb. They're losing sight of you in the darkness. You're getting away. You push the nose forward. Trade altitude for airspeed. Get away from this area. Get distance. Get safe. Your heart is pounding. Adrenaline is maxing out. Your hands are shaking on the controls. But you did it. You got them out. The LRRP team is alive. Your crew is alive. The helicopter is damaged but still flying. Willis comes on the intercom. One of the LRRP guys is critical. Chest wound. He needs immediate medical. You acknowledge. Tell Martinez to call ahead. Get a medevac team ready. You push the helicopter as fast as it'll go. Every second matters now. You just saved these soldiers from the enemy. Now you need to get them to doctors before wounds kill them. The flight back is tense. You're still at low altitude, still in danger, but the adrenaline is fading, being replaced by exhaustion, by the shakes, by the realization of how close you came to dying, how close your crew came, how many things could have gone wrong. You land at base. Medical personnel rush the wounded LRRP soldier to surgery. The other 5 are walking wounded, exhausted, shell-shocked, but alive. They look at you, at your crew. One of them just nods, can't speak, too emotional, too grateful. That nod says everything. You saved their lives, did the impossible, flew into darkness and brought them home. Your helicopter is a mess. Bullet holes everywhere, hydraulic fluid leaking, engine damaged from overstressing.
Your maintenance crew swarms it, assessing damage, starting repairs. Your crew chief looks it over, shakes his head. "We got lucky," he says. Lucky is right. An inch different on any of those bullet hits, and you'd all be dead.
You debrief, report the mission, report the damage, report the successful extraction. The operations officer congratulates you, says good job, but his voice is flat, tired. Because tomorrow night there will be another mission just like this one. Another impossible task, another crew asked to fly into darkness and danger. That's what night flying is. One impossible mission after another, until your luck runs out or your tour ends. You head to your hooch, try to sleep, but you can't. You're still wired, still seeing the approach in your mind, still hearing the gunfire, still feeling the bullets hitting the helicopter. You lie there in the darkness thinking about how close you came, how one wrong move would have killed everyone. How you flew at night into hostile territory and somehow survived. That's what night flying was. Pure skill mixed with luck, courage mixed with insanity. Doing things that shouldn't be possible, that definitely shouldn't be survivable. And doing it again and again, because soldiers on the ground needed you. Because waiting until morning meant people died. Because someone had to fly at night, and you were willing to do it. Night flying in Vietnam claimed hundreds of helicopter crews. Pilots who flew into mountains they couldn't see. Crews who got shot down in darkness and couldn't be rescued. Aircraft that had mechanical failures at night and crashed before pilots could react. Every night mission was Russian roulette. You pulled the trigger and hoped the chamber was empty. Sometimes it was. Sometimes it wasn't. But when it worked, when you completed the mission, when you brought soldiers home who would have died otherwise, that made it worth it. That gave meaning to the risk. That's why you kept flying, kept accepting night missions, kept pushing your luck, because lives depended on it, because you were the only thing standing between those soldiers and death. You're a Huey crew flying low at night. You can barely see, can barely navigate. You're pushing your helicopter to its limits, risking your life and the lives of your crew, flying into situations that terrify you, doing things that seem impossible. But you do it anyway, because that's what helicopter crews do. They fly when others won't. They risk everything to save others. They turn the impossible into routine and the terrifying into just another mission. You're flying low at night through hostile territory, and somehow, against all odds, you're bringing everyone home.